Hello and welcome to another episode of Global Business Insights, where experts and seasoned senior analysts dive deeper into the headlines as we get them. Inflation rose in a number of German states, that's November, suggesting that the national inflation rate would also increase as many are expecting. The Bank of Korea cut its key rate by a quarter percentage point to 3% and lowered its outlook for the country's economic growth to 2.2% from 2.4% for this year and to 1.9% from 2.1% for 2025. European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde says the EU might be in a better position if it talks with the US about potential trade tariffs instead of immediately plotting countermeasures. A ceasefire between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah started early today following a deal after weeks of US-mediated talks. Geopolitical risk premium could slowly fade if the ceasefire holds. Meanwhile, OPEC Plus will delay Sunday's online meeting on oil production curbs to December 5, where it will discuss whether to proceed with reviving supplies, beginning with an increase of 180,000 barrels a day in January. Brent crude is pretty much unchanged ahead of the OPEC Plus meeting. And some data, US durable goods orders higher 0.2% on a monthly basis in October, missing expectations for an increase of 0.5%. Weekly initial jobless claims also in the US inched down to 213,000 from 215,000 in the previous week. The closely watched Fed preferred inflation gauge, that's personal consumption expenditure index, rose 2.3% on a yearly basis, matching estimates. The annual core PCE inflation, that's personal consumption expenditure inflation, ticked up to 2.8% from 2.7% also as expected. Looking at how US markets closed, the Dow rose to another all-time high yesterday before settling lower as the market space pivots into the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. Shorter hours tomorrow expected to also limit the potential for momentum at close of the trading week. There are two major stories that broke this week. The first is international, as Trump fired a salvo on trade, declaring that we should expect extra tariffs for imports into the US. The second is a local story, as the drums were brought out to celebrate the revival of the old NNPCL Port-Harcourt Refinery. Christine Lagarde has reacted to tariffs, warning that a trade war risks wiping out tepid economic growth, but also urging Europe's political leaders to meet Trump halfway by buying more US products, such as liquefied natural gas and defense equipment, a kind of geopolitical win-win to buy time. Lagarde had earlier voiced that a second Trump term was clearly a threat for Europe and requires an appropriate response, also agreeing with her predecessor Mario Draghi's diagnosis that the EU needs drastic action to regain its economic competitiveness after struggling to keep up with the US over recent decades. Also, Beijing manufacturers are more likely to flood European, Asia, and African markets with their products, presenting a further threat to domestic competitiveness in these regions. Lagarde calls the European economy a pretty attractive museum, but adds there are effective plays worth emulating, like, say, in Netherlands, which is the second largest farming product exporter in the world. On the inflationary impact, Lagarde says it all depends what the tariffs are, what they are applied on, and over what period of time, and it's still too early to say. In the UK, most trade is largely in the services sector, which provides a buffer from a trade war, but some goods industries rely on the US as their top customer, much more so than Europe. It still remains unclear how the US President-elect's policies will affect Britain, and the uncertainty will weigh on demand. It's not just Asia, Africa, and Europe that will be affected. Higher tariffs will impact businesses in the US. Higher costs of car parts could shave 2 to 3 percentage points of profit margin from General Motors. The numbers for Stellantis and Ford are about 2 points and 1 point to 2 points respectively. Ford Motors stock closed down 2.6% yesterday. Stocks of motor vehicle manufacturers that depend on a global supply chain are being hit. US car manufacturers' stocks are down in Asian trading today. Nissan shares slumped 3.6%. Honda stock was down 1.9%. Toyota stock also down 1%. In European trading, shares of Volkswagen fell 2.3%. BMW stock was down 1.1%. Also, some of the pain will be ameliorated by cuts to corporate taxes to 15%. We can't wait to see what exactly Trump does after he's inaugurated, but it's not looking like business as usual. The other main story was in Nigeria. After years of shutdown and rehabilitation, the Port-Harcourt refinery has finally resumed production of petroleum products after so many unmet deadlines, with the first batch of lifting of petrol set to be underway. The latest rehabilitation effort was reported to have begun since 2021, following the $1.5 billion contract approved by the federal government for the purpose. And many brought out the drums. A senior business analyst, Lekon Shote, comments that finally naysayers may have been silenced on the fate of Nigeria refineries.
Many Nigerians are understandably doubtful that production is already at 70% at the smaller Port-Harcourt refinery with 60,000 barrels per day production capacity. Segun Dapo, Chief Financial Officer of NNPCL, and Farouk Ahmed, Chief Executive Officer of Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Agency, expect marginally lower price advantage to petrol customers only in the Port-Harcourt area. Dapo is, however, non-committal about when the other refineries will come on stream. I guess discretion is the better part of valor. But there's a bigger concern. If all NNPCL refineries that have a total 445,000 daily production capacity begin production, and if you add that to the 650,000 daily production capacity of Dangote Refinery, you will get roughly 1.1 million production capacity per day. If indeed total production capacity in Nigeria's oil fields is currently about 1.53 million barrels per day, and the joint venture partners of NNPCL and the international creditors of Nigeria who get paid with crude petroleum take their dedicated portion, one wonders how many barrels will be available to NNPCL, Dangote, and the other smaller refineries in Nigeria.
My take is more nuanced and focuses more on sustainability. I believe the greatest progress by this government is not in the refinery itself, but in the well overdue deregulation in the downstream sector, which should foster and enable the right environment for refineries to flourish. The economics around the NNPCL refinery is not fully known yet. What we know is that this is a thin margin business requiring a highly efficient decision ecosystem and best-in-class processes to compete in a saturated global market where refineries are shutting down more than ever due to overcapacity. Will the government be forced to protect NNPCL if its costs are higher than Dangote and indeed international prices? Also, should government continue to be engaged in refining products, or should the NNPC refineries be privatized as soon as possible? Has the government understood the reasons why NNPCL historically performed poorly in efficiently running its refineries, and have the cracks been mended? Has the upstream sector been optimally positioned to improve capacity to feed the demand for crude oil for local refineries? Forcing answers to these questions must sound like denying the government its moment of victory, but these questions will continue to haunt the narrative unless we get better clarity and address the outstanding issues. To be clear, refineries have been running in Europe since the middle of the 19th century, and this indeed is no technological feat. Refineries breaking down in Nigeria is only another symptom of the governance malaise that has plagued the country. But first, let me add some of the facts I have discerned. I must say I am a chemical engineer and have some very limited understanding here. A refinery is an industrial process plant where crude oil is processed and refined into more useful products. The main unit is a distillation unit which boils the hydrocarbons into different components, but the output gives heavier distillates which are further treated in many specialized plants, including catalytic crackers, which eventually gives us the final gasoline products. My understanding is that the old Port-Harcourt main distillation unit is now working, but other components are not commissioned. Hence, the further blending with imported products to give gasoline products that are being sold. I'm not sure of the impact on standards and quality. NNPCL needs to be more transparent. Indeed, its clarification press release issued stated that the gasoline was obtained from blending naphtha from the old refinery, that's Port-Harcourt Refinery, with crack C5 from Indorama. This is one of the pathways to getting gasoline, but not the most cost efficient and is not a sustainable solution. This means the secondary units key to the refinery process to further treat the naphtha may still be in the process of being commissioned. When a refinery is fully commissioned, all the process units are working and the full product slate is realized. The unit cost of production is the lowest possible as per the engineering design of the plant. This is not yet the position with the old Port-Harcourt refinery. Still, EVI congratulates NNPCL on progress made, but this does not change views on how to put Nigeria's oil and gas sector on a sustainable, stable growth trajectory. Asian stocks were mixed after stocks in Wall Street retreated, weighed down by losses for technology shares. South Korea's KOSPI was unchanged after the central bank cut its benchmark interest rate to relieve pressure on its slowing economy. Well, that's all we have on this episode of Global Business Insights. This is Bode Oshosami. Thanks for sharing Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. And again, thank you so very much for watching. Bye-bye.